name is Busayo Fashoto. I'm from Nigeria. I work with Yet Africa. Data governance actually had to start from what we mean by data governance, right? Is it data ownership? Is it data management? And of course, who has the right to own that? First is data is everybody's right. I'm going to start from that angle. Of course, there's some privileged data that the organization, the institution, and the government has the right to hold, but every person, right, generates its own data, and they actually have every right to manage their data. Of course, you can always leverage your data out. Even in areas where we just sign our data privacy without reading the full content of what is there, or just clicking on I agree to terms and conditions without even understanding the word terms, let alone the condition you're giving your data right out. I think for me, the public needs to be aware of the level of their data that is going out there and what is being used for. Nobody is looking at abuse of data as it stands, not just, of course, because data is global. We can mine data over the web, so nobody is even controlling that space. And gradually, you are selling part of yourself out there even without you knowing. So I think that's just my take on data governance. I believe I want to push for people to actually know that their data is being used. Also to be self-aware that anytime I click on this or select this, so part of my data, like my IP system, like my MAC system, number system is being captured, my location is being captured. That awareness needs to be there, and not just one small box to say that I agree and that's it. There should be a kind of summary that should be there for the person to know that, okay, this is what I'm really agreeing to in summary, instead of giving me over 100 pages of terms and conditions to go through, which in some areas some people will not do understand. So for me, data governance is everybody's right. Everybody has the right to know what the data is being used for. Of course, there are some privileges that has to go to the government and institution. For some part of the world, I think that's already ongoing in terms of data policy. Government are now being aware that data are actually out there, whether you like it or not, and building a kind of safeguard, building a kind of an assurance that, okay, your data A and B will be safe. I think that's one thing. I don't think people are really afraid of sharing their data. Of course, share or no share, you're actually getting the information anyways, right? So I don't think that's part of it, but I think the government should unconsciously, at least for the people, the government consciously should now protect people's rights in terms of data sharing, in terms of policy making to guide the identity of the owner of the data in the sense of it. And for me, that is actually my advice. Government consciously protecting the people against data theft, protecting the people against data market where your data have been shared here and there. And of course, there's some also applications that do get your information even without you knowing, just by using their services alone. I think there should be strategic policy against that too, right? Even if you're going to use my data, there should be restriction to it, to what level and what you're going to use the data for. There is one thing for the app to get your data, there's another thing for third party to use that data. So I'm much more concerned about third party using the data. I don't have issue with an application that I'm using to use my data, right? That's fine. But once that application is now leveraging or selling out my data to a third party, I think for me that's just where the government needs to work on. That's it. at least well, I don't belong to the millennial generation, so I'm still below 35. While I was growing up, we don't get the privilege to learn Python, to learn. Yeah, I think I did a bit of Visual Basic back then in school, and it was gimmicks, right? It was not properly taught. Let me put it that way. But now, I think the curriculum needs to be reviewed, right? There's a lot of languages out there. That these programming languages, there's a lot of start tech out there that people could work on, even build new ones, right? So first thing first is the fundamentals should be taught in school. The basic statistics should be taught in school, because I felt that part of analytics we're actually losing it. People just want to learn about the tool, or let me say the tech, without understanding what the tech is doing, right? So for me, in terms of education, I think the curriculum needs to be reviewed to include programming languages, right? You can, of course, pick the fundamentals where you can write on building new ones, because if you can do Python, you can still switch to how you can switch to other programming languages. But that beginner needs to be taught in school, and there is this consciousness of applications or of tech stack that needs to be taught in school too, right? If not for exposure, you know that there are list of tools, there are list of applications, there are list of programming languages that you can actually use here and there. All this should be from school, and the person having that awareness can easily explore, right, in terms of other applications and even building new ones, solving problems, especially data analytics. So that's my idea. As the saying goes, you're not really reinventing new things, right? You're just working on what, or let me say, mending the gap on what is already existing, right? So I think building modules to guide young ones at that early age. Some part of Africa, of course, you won't get to know anything about programming until you are like 14, 12, or 15, thereabouts in schools now. But I think from the preliminary level of the kids should be aware that there's something like this going on, right? So coding should be taught from primary schools. Let me say, at least I'm using Nigeria system, for instance, should be taught from primary schools. So when you understand that, kids that pick interest in that will already have a kind of understanding of what the coding will do or what it does, and can build on that as he or she progresses into within the educational system. So for me, it's not about building new tools, right? It's just about this general awareness that needs to go across the world, that these do exist, and they need to imbibe this into the system. Yeah, I think for me, anyways, the SDG is actually data-driven, right? So at the different SDG level, there is a data that ought to drive it, right? Or there's a kind of, because SDG is just like a framework, right? So I know I'm from Earth space, Earth environment, so I know that series of platforms, that series of tools that drive the SDG for Earth. That's universal health coverage, right? At least I'm aware of that. So for me, it's just still much more of building awareness around this, identifying the key indicators, and also identifying the key data to be used. I'm more of a data-driven person, which I always drive that every framework should be driven by data, not just here we have this, we have that. Where are the data? Where are not just aggregated data now? Because I've worked with data for the last 10 years. I've seen a lot of aggregated data. When you request for the lower level data, and then you get to your response like, it does not exist, this, that, we just sum it up at this. No, at that lowest level, we should have a good data quality that it will be easier for us to work with, right? Because that's actually where the impact really is. Not just 20 million child have been vaccinated. Where are they, right? So evidence-based data is very necessary to achieve the SDGs, because of course without the evidence-based data, there's data everywhere, there's coverage data, but there's evidence-based that you could see the impact on ground, right? So it is that impact that you want to put into the SDG. It's that impact that will make us to understand that yes, it's possible for us to accomplish the eradication of cholera in 2030, or it's possible for us to accomplish eradication of polio in 2050. But if we don't have evidence-based data, we won't be able to meet that projection, right? So I think that's should be the major focus of the SDG, right? Measuring their framework with evidence-based data, and that they can use to drive and project into better systems. And of course, after you project into better system, you can now go back and, okay, where are the gaps? Can we reduce this? We say 2050, right? Within this data, we have ABCD gaps. If you fill these gaps, can we reduce it? Of 2050, can we do it 2030 or 2040, right? So with that kind of data to review your gaps within your data, that will actually help you to accomplish the projection. Most of the time, right, there's always this general saying in Nigeria, Vision 2020, and 2030 came with COVID, and everybody has to cancel the whole vision. That was not projected, right? So there's some of course issues that get to happen that will push you away from your projection, or derail you from your projection. But at the same time, you should have a kind of projection that is data driven. And as each year is coming in, you should review your projection. Whether you are extending the projection or probably you're going to make it closer, right? So for the SDG, for me, it's just get the evidence-based data at this aggregated level, not aggregated level. Now, this aggregated level, and with that, the evidence is going to be obvious, and the stakeholders will be able to measure their accomplishment with evidence-based data. Thank you.